Okay, everyone. So, we are waiting. Not have a quorum, and Jackie will not be here tonight. She's still on vacation, so David and I will be running the meeting. But I think we should go ahead and just, for sake of time, we get rolling anyhow, and we'll move past the things that we need board members to vote on. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the South Bay City Council of Government Board of Directors meeting for October 27, 2022. We don't have a quorum, so once we get there, David will be counting that. We'll go ahead and verify that at that point. Can we confirm we posted the agenda?
We did.
Okay, very good.
Want to do introductions for folks that are here, or just go around so you online know?
Yeah, great. So John Cruikshank, Chair, and also Council Member Rancho Palos Verdes.
Olivia Valentine, Council Member, City of Hawthorne.
Colleen Farrell, Communications Manager, South Bay Cities Council of Governments.
Barry White, Councilman, City of Lomita.
Ronson Chu, Home Services Manager, South Bay City Council of Governments.
Britt Huff, Mayor Pro Tem, Rolling Hills Estates.
Jeff Kiernan with the League of California Cities here in person.
And Dave Lish here with the COG.
Councilwoman Dion Falk, City of Inglewood.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, we can see the people that are online, so you guys don't need to announce yourself. We've got all your names, but welcome everyone, and thank you for being here. And yes, this is the one and only Jeff Kiernan, which you probably have only seen online for the last 2 years. So here he is. So not only did you miss the free meal, but you also missed seeing him in person right here live.
Drove all the way in.
All right, so welcome everyone. So Brown Act declaration.
Wait for that one.
Okay, very good. And we'll do the agenda as well. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No change.
Okay, so we can not have to do that. Or any, should we wait comments for the public for the full board?
I think so.
Okay, what item can we move to?
We can go start with presentations if you'd like.
Okay.
Sean?
All right, yeah, give me 1 second to, oops, I just clicked off of Zoom. Okay.
It's on that TV too. It's like magic.
Okay, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Also, I'm sorry, I have to ask, is there like another mic in that room?
There is. I'm muting us now.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. My name's Sean, and I will be presenting to you all on the new South Bay Cities COG's South Bay Energy and Climate Recognition Program. Now, first, a little bit about myself for those of you who haven't seen me at previous board meetings. My name is Sean Fujioka. I've been with the COG since September of 2021, first as a Civic Spark Energy Efficiency Fellow until August of this year. And since then, I'm now a project coordinator with the COG. And throughout this time, I have worked on energy efficiency and SoCalRen public agency programs, and more recently have also taken on roles in the GIS and West Basin rain barrel programs. And then also since my fellowships ended, I've organized the September Energy Manager Working Group, and I'm actually in the progress of organizing the November one as well. And then have tracked registrations for rain barrel distribution events and have assisted with onboarding our new Civic Spark Energy Efficiency Fellow. And then prior to working with the COG, I graduated from UCLA in 2021 with a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science with all those minors listed there with Geography and GIS minors. And then I was a Climate Action Corps Fellow with Tree People. Okay, so here's a general overview of what I'll be talking about tonight. First, what exactly is the program? And then how we've worked with South Bay Cities to develop this program, benefits of participating, as well as how to participate, and then finally how we will track the award activity. And then to clarify, we are still working with the city staff and will confirm the details that are outlined tonight, and then we'll bring it back to you all on the consent calendar in November for a launch in January. All right, so first, what is the South Bay Energy and Climate Recognition Program, or SBECR for short? This program, a collaboration between the South Bay City and Calren, to be launched in 2023, will recognize South Bay cities for pursuing energy efficiency initiatives and completing sustainability related tasks, and has the goal of basically resurrecting the previous SoCal Edison Energy Leader Partnership Recognition Program, but in a new updated form that's tailored to the cities. And then based on how many actions cities complete, they can achieve bronze, silver, and gold recognition levels. And this program will be conducted on an annual basis, considering actions completed each year. And at the end of each year, the COG and SoCalRen will evaluate the program and consider CD feedback and incorporate revisions into the next cycle. All right, so in creating this program, the COG has kept city energy managers informed at every step of the process. We've done this through regular presentations at energy manager working group meetings, which will have our final one of the year on November 3rd, and then incorporate any remaining feedback into the draft, which we'll present to you in the consent calendar. Okay, so benefits that the cities receive for participating in this program include attending an annual ceremony in December held by the COG and SoCalRen, as well as additional recognition potentially at energy manager working groups, city council and board meetings such as this one. And then at a minimum, so the bronze level, cities will be presented with a certificate and acknowledgement on the COG website and social media, and cities that will then receive increasing recognition with each level. All right, so now how can cities participate? Well, first, cities must be enrolled in the SoCalRen. This is a particularly big one. This is a collaboration with the REN, so cities must be enrolled in the REN. And then also cities must promote strategies and demonstrate commitment to energy efficiency, climate action, and adaptation. So beginning January 1st of next year, cities will have until the third Monday of November to achieve points, 1 point being awarded per activity. And then after this deadline, any activities that are completed will just carry over into the next program year. And then at the bottom of the slide, I have a table that shows how many points correlate to each recognition level. All right, so now what are these activities that can be completed to achieve points? Well, they fall into the following 3 categories. So climate action, adaptation, and sustainability, education, networking, and engagement, and then technical assistance. And something to note is that cities must provide proof of activities in order to receive credit. And then cities must also complete at least 1 task per category. And another thing too is that cities can receive bonus points for energy savings that may occur due to projects in that particular year. All right, so now I'll get into each category more specifically. So first, the climate action, adaptation, and sustainability tasks in this category include updating or revising cities' climate action plans or greenhouse gas emissions inventory, implementing an on-site renewable system or purchasing clean energy, participating in a COG sustainability initiative such as the local travel network or the green business program, and then finally implementing a climate action, adaptation, or sustainability project. These can include installing EV infrastructure or native landscaping. And when we release the guidelines, we'll have examples of potential projects that cities can complete. But if there's a project a city has that that's not listed in the guidelines, then they can submit it to us for approval by, again, that third Monday of November deadline. Okay, and then next up, the education, networking, and category. Cities can attend meetings, trainings, and more relating to energy efficiency or sustainability to earn points, such as the Energy Managers Working Group. Cities can also host presentations for their staff or can host community outreach events. A good example, for instance, is that we've had 3 cities, Manhattan Beach, El Segundo, and Hermosa Beach this year that worked with us to conduct community webinars on energy and water savings. This is a perfect example. If cities do this in 2023, that's a great way to get a point for this particular task. And then another thing is conducting presentations highlighting accomplishments and best practices to city committees, commissions, or other agencies. And then finally, utilizing social media and other networks of communication to promote sustainability efforts. Right. And then the technical assistance category includes efforts such as working with the COG on Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Those of you who saw my presentation in July saw me talk about this, but reminder, this is a platform that keeps track of city energy use over time by property. And then another can do is complete a comparative energy analysis with the SoCalRen or a facility audit, and then implement an energy efficiency project. This is similar to the climate ones. We'll have a list of potential projects such as installing LEDs. And then if there's a project not listed, cities can submit it for approval in the same way. And also participating in a SoCalRen energy program. All right, so then finally getting into tracking the award activity. So the COG will track city progress on a spreadsheet kind of similar to this. With like my cursor going, with like activities over here and like energy savings, and then like the city names up here. I know this is probably really small for the people in person, but we'll just kind of like mark off when cities have completed items and then add up the points and provide these reports on a quarterly basis, as well as recommendations to cities on maybe what activities we think that they could complete easily to achieve points. All right, well, that's basically everything I have. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. When the program is launched, any questions or corrections to how we've tracked cities' activities and any other updates can be directed to myself at the email listed. But also, if you have any questions, please feel free to send them now.
All right, are there any questions? All right, doesn't seem here any raised, I don't see any raised hands. Sean, thank you so much for that great presentation. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, no, it looks like a lot of fun. Okay, I believe we now have a quorum. Is that correct, David?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Officially called meeting to order now.
Okay, and one thing that the staff had added to page 5, if you look at it, is a fancy new chart, a quorum chart. And if you've taken a look, you can see not only the numbers that are here and how many people are here today.
We have 11.
Okay, so if you look on the fancy new chart there, if there's 11 people, we need 7 people to have an affirmative vote for an action item. And this is all because of Mayor, Council Member Hildy Stern. Because of. Anyhow.
That's an interesting way to frame it.
I think it's a fancy idea and a good idea. So thank you for adding that, David.
Welcome.
Appreciate that. All right, next item.
Okay, so we can go to the Brown Act declaration.
Okay.
Need a motion on that.
Okay, is there a motion for item number 4, the Brown Act declaration?
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Reverse roll call, please.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. And then we can go to public comment.
Is there any public comment?
There is no public comment at this time.
All right, thank you, Natalie. Okay, next item looks like the consent calendar. Any items need to be discussed, or is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Like Cedric.
Thanks, Cedric. Reverse roll call.
Any opposition? Any abstentions?
And I'm going to make one point. I noticed in the city attendance meetings that a couple of the committees, the GIS and the infrastructure working committees, only had a couple members. So is there anyone on those committees in this room, or?
Those are usually staff.
Is it just staff?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not something you need board participation.
I
Okay,
mean, you guys are more than welcome, but it's more focused on staff level issues.
so it looks like the other committees are actually fairly well attended. So that's really great. Okay, next item, David.
Okay, so the next one would be the city roundtable sharing discussion.
Okay, this is something that I had talked to Jackie about a few months ago. And I thought that if ever we were kind of light on presentations, I think it would be nice to just go around. I think we did this a couple of years ago where board members could go around and just give us a quick 3-minute update on what's going on that we should hear about at your city, or some innovative idea, or whatever you want to talk about. And I can actually go first, and we'll go through this quickly. Like I said, 3 minutes max. So in Rancho Palos Verdes, we set up city goals like all the cities do. And so we have 6 categories that we actually track as part of our big picture goals in our city. And those are public safety, infrastructure, city land and facilities, citizen involvement in public outreach, quality of life, and government efficiency, transparency, and accountability. And then each one of those, we create projects that we come up with and agree upon, and then we start tracking every year. And so just, if those of you that don't know Rancho Palos Verdes so well, we're up on the hill with the other 3 cities, but what's important to us. And so the big things that we're working on right now, we're working on our Civic Center master plan. If you haven't been up to our city hall, we basically have Cold War barracks that were used. Some very old facilities. The land that our city hall is on is actually not city owned, it's federally owned property. So we've had to negotiate with the federal government. It is actually an act of Congress to get them to change the easements and the usage so that we can expand our city hall. And so right now we're in the middle of preparing master plans, preliminary plans, and Gensler Architecture is putting those together. And then the other big items that I think would be of interest is we have a huge landslide. It's the biggest landslide in North America, active landslide. It's got multiple different, not just one mass of Earth, it's like 5 different masses that move in different, and some areas it moves up to 10 feet a year. And it costs our city about $1 million a year to fix the road. And if you've ever driven on our road, Palos Verdes Drive South, it's like a roller coaster. And so we want to fix that eventually. And so we're right in the middle of EIR doing that. So anyhow, those are what Rancho Palos Verdes updates. I know Hawthorne is celebrating a 100-year anniversary. So Olivia, tell us what's going on.
Well, we actually did celebrate 100 years, which took tremendous planning. I'm very proud of the effort our city put forth to get that done. Our city manager deserves a lot of credit for doing that. Everyone was involved, staff, the council members. We hired outside consultants to help us with some planning. We had an elegant dinner the Friday night. This was in July. We had an elegant dinner. The next day, the Saturday, we had a block party and a huge parade. And then one of the events was a time capsule opening, where we opened the time capsule from, I think it was, I'm trying to think, it was 1984. And then we opened it and enjoyed all of the pictures that we saw and the artifacts and the memorabilia that people had packed in there all those years ago. And that was on display. And then 2 or 3 days later, we put in items from this year for the next 50 years. So we'll see. It was a great ceremony, and it was very memorable for everyone who attended. And we also had a state of the city addressed by the mayor at the same time. So it was about 5 days of celebration. It took a tremendous effort. And if any of you attended, I think you enjoyed whatever event you came to. Did any of you come?
I was there.
That's right, you did. So, and the other thing that I wanted to mention is, a couple of things. We're developing a strategic plan. We've met with community and staff to talk about where we want to go, what direction the city wants to take. And this is really the first time the city has actually had a strategic plan where we're actually sitting down with the council members, staff, and community members to develop a vision for the city and a plan to implement it. So that was done. We haven't quite finished, but at the last meeting, we had a SWOT meeting where we talked about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. All of those elements we talked about in relation to how we're developing the strategic plan and what we need to do to make it successful. So the consultant that we were working with is going to take all of our ideas and put it into a document. And so in the very near future, the city will get the results of the plan that everyone worked on and developed. So I'm very excited about that because I think that it's important for the city to have a uniform vision so that everyone knows what direction the city wants to go in and can help it get there. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was we are in the process of, we just on Tuesday night had the first reading of our cannabis ordinance. So Hawthorne is in the process of developing cannabis in the city. We're going to have a combination of retail and possibly manufacturing, possibly commercial facilities. So that's all in the works. And the first reading happened Tuesday night, and in another 2 weeks, the council will be voting on it. And we had already voted. The residents had already voted on taxing the cannabis business. If we decided to develop it, it would be taxed at 5%. So that was already passed a couple of years ago. And basically, that's all I have.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Olivia. Barry, what's going on Lomita?
So a couple of interesting things. First, water. Water is big these days. So our well we only have one well in Lomita, and it has been shuttered for a couple of years now because of benzene contamination. So we got a grant from WRD, and then we got some other chunks of money that allowed us to build a filtration system. And so now that will go live, and it will also deal with some other issues we already had. The well's only been there since 2009 or 10, I believe. So anyway, the whole system was new, but it was never at full speed. So with all this new equipment now, we'll be at full speed. And so the well is expected to go online in just a few weeks, which will mean we're no longer using just West Basin water. We will have local water source. And we're looking at getting a second well. I said we need to make sure it's not near anyone named Timmy because we don't want Timmy to fall in the well, which my younger council colleagues had no idea what I was talking about. But anyway, so for those of us who remember Timmy in the well, so we got a grant. Thank you very much to Maxine Waters, our current Congress member, and Ted Lieu, our new Congress member, who sort of teamed up to make sure that happened. And so now we're looking at adding a second well, which will make us much more resilient and also reduce our reliance on any outside water. So that's one big thing. It's not exciting to the general public, but as we know, the important stuff is rarely exciting. But on the more exciting side, our downtown has become, we don't know how it happened, but it's become cool. So, try as we might just to keep our little homey feel, it's turned cool. And so the last available restaurant space has been snapped up and is going to be someplace interesting. And right down the street, we have a large Japanese bakery that's going to be opening. And we have our brew pubs. And anyway, so that's just fascinating to see what's been happening. And then a particular interest to our friends in Rolling Hills Estates, the former grocery store site at Narbonne and PCH is going to open as a small format Target store. So because our friends in Rolling Hills Estates say they really miss being able to stop at the grocery store on their way up Narbonne going home. And so including two of our friends who are economic development directors who live in the area who are very frustrated with us. So we're very excited with that. That's the kind of stuff that people get very excited about that we have very little control over, but we're excited about it too.
So it's a Target with groceries?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Lucky us.
That will do quite well.
All right. Thank you, Barry. Is Aurelio here? Or are you representing Torrance today?
I'm a last minute stand-in, so.
Welcome.
Aurelio's not.
Yeah.
He's not on.
Yeah, Aurelio.
Since you as the mayor,
Yeah.
tell us what's going on in Torrance.
I'll quickly go down. So last Saturday, we had the real grand opening of the Lunasia Dim Sum House. So if you are in the Rolling Hills Plaza, where there used to be a restaurant called Little Sheep. Now this place is packed. So if you're looking for some good dim sum, that's where you go. It's very close to the AMC Theater. And the mall is doing very well, doing better than 2019. So we're coming back. And I think, so I know Drew has Northern Italia restaurant over there in El Segundo. There will be another one coming to the mall very, very soon. This past Tuesday, we all decided to dress up at the council meeting. So
Oh my gosh.
if you watch Aurelio's Facebook post, you will see that he was Johnny Cash, and I wore my only one and only Halloween costume, my Navy Top Gun flight suit. So I ran the meeting that way, and I think it went well. Everybody had fun. Downtown revitalization is still a project that's on our site. We are starting to think about what to do with our civic center upgrade for the future. So we're looking into some possible designs and really make that place, I'll call it 21st century maybe, and have more events and venues, maybe even maybe even a hotel and some restaurants there. So we're gonna let it rip a little bit, at least while I'm still there. Homelessness is still a big issue. I don't know how the rest of the cities are. We're still working on that. Sometimes homelessness is almost like you could do in your chain link that have 20 things well. If one link is homelessness and you see a particular person on Sky Park Drive all the time, then it kind of puts a little damper on everything you do well in the city, right? So we are still looking at all the means that we can, and we have an anti-camping ordinance. So we are looking at all the ways we can do that. I really feel bad in a way that I believe in our state and our county, we really don't have a more aggressive plan to address it with respect to what I share with Ronson. I'll call it more of a integrated treatment center with full service, as opposed to you do one here, you do one here, you would do one there. We really don't get to it. But so the transit center is a big deal. Hopefully we get that done, the Torrance Transit Center, by the end of this calendar year. Of course, with that, there's the arm wrestling on which route it goes to. We had one of the council members from Redondo Beach. I don't know if he was there. Zane was there this week, threatening us. But
I was not threatening you.
George is joking.
Maybe. I'll give my own personal feeling. If now that we know the 2020 Olympics are coming to LA, not having a workable, a better line there, it's almost like not having the SoFi Center built before 2028. I mean, I think it should be looked at in that way to get something going. Remember one vote in my council, that's how I see it. We're on the international stage, and we're seeing something that's 2030 at best. To me, that just doesn't seem right. We got our housing element approved by HCD, I think, so that's a big deal. I know that we have a lot of housing requirements, so hopefully developers will start looking at where they could possibly develop. And we're looking at adding additional international friendship cities. I got a letter from the Consul General of Korea. He visited me 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks afterwards, I get a letter that says this city in Korea may fit. It's the home city of Samsung, Hyundai, and Kia. Can you imagine if we could get a relationship and they established a business satellite here? We're gonna try, right? I will leave it for now. I think I went beyond my 3 minutes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
On the anti-camping ordinance, what does your ordinance say?
The ordinance, it's, in a nutshell, it's very simple. You cannot camp in public areas if we are offering them available housing. And if you don't accept the help, you cannot camp there. So you can start the citation, if you will. And then
But you couldn't do that if you didn't have an anti-camping ordinance?
Correct. We're using based on what our understanding of the Martin versus Boise,
Right.
right? That we.
I understand that you have to have a place for them to go,
Sure.
but do you have to have an anti-camping ordinance in order to offer that? If you have a place for them to go, do you have to have an ordinance in order to ask them to go there?
So the thing is, if they say, I don't want to go, what do you do then?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Where at one point, can you start doing enforcement?
Okay.
Right? That's the thing.
We have we're addressing this issue in our next task force meeting, November 2nd. We've had a number of cities approach us about this issue. And we also had outreach workers approach us about this issue because they're frustrated too. They have cases on their caseload, which have been on their caseload for like 2 years and there's no movement. And so what we want to do is convene a discussion about this. There's a lot of issues in play here. So, and just to be clear, we're talking about like what George is saying, it's a small link in the fence. This is a minority, but visible population that we're dealing with. And so what we want to do is come up with a playbook. And it's actually kind of surprising. If you Google homeless service resistance playbook in Google, nothing comes up. And so you would think that this has been written already, but it hasn't. And so what we are going to try to do is write the playbook. Like, what do we do when we encounter people who we've built relationships, we're bringing trauma-informed care. There's a lot of reasons people are service resistance, right? They might have been sexually abused at a shelter. And so that could be a reason why there's service resistance. So how do we take into account all these considerations and provide a playbook for cities to follow so that we're not re-traumatizing people and that we're getting them off the streets in a manner that benefits both the population and also the cities. So that will be the topic of discussion on November 2nd.
My second question to you is, what is the name of the dim sum place you were mentioning?
Lunasia, Lunasia. They're like a higher end, I'll call it higher end. You're not going to see people pushing carts down the aisle. You order off the menu and they bring it to you. So I guess for some folks that might be a little bit more sanitary, but for guys like me, I'm old school. I like the cart, but Lunasia, I drove by the other day taking my mom to the hair salon, and then people are waiting in line even Thursday during lunch. Maybe it's a new thing, but check it out.
Okay.
If you like it.
Absolutely.
It looks really nice.
Yeah. Well, I was there. We had the lion dance. They went all out this last Saturday. It was big.
Terrific. Thank you, George.
Back. Like it's by the AMC.
Yeah.
It's right by the, what's the vegetarian place? Veggie Grill.
Oh,
Right.
All right.
okay.
What's going on
In our little
Hills?
city of Rolling Hills. Well, we also got our 6th cycle approved, so we're very excited about that after all this work. And we've been very much into trying to work on avoiding wildfires and planning, because we along with other cities in the peninsula are in the highest fire zone. And so we, a few years back, did a community wildfire protection plan, which we set forth all of the goals and things that we wanted to do as a community. So we've been doing various things, the city paid for various videos to be shot for hardening the home. How do you harden your home from fire? And then there was another set of videos for reducing fire fuel in canyon areas with demonstration. And we had that assistance of the fire department help us with that. And then, so there's been a lot of movement of the community members and reducing fire fuel. And we've had also put out bins where people could just bring and dump in all of the clippings and things like that. And those have been very popular. We're now exploring siren system in the event that there's no cell service or electricity, the siren to give notification to residents. both through sound and voice communication. So we're looking at a vendor that apparently just got a contract with the city of Paradise to put these in, but they've been doing military bases. And, but so far no real cities other than they have this contract with Paradise. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, I would still like to have a demonstration like will this work? Because, you know, there's a lot of attenuation you can't hear with double and triple pane windows, and you know, you have this thing where maybe it may not serve the
And
purpose.
the terrain you would think would be a challenge.
I
Dealing
can't
with
hear you.
the terrain you think would be.
Yeah, there's a lot, I mean, and they do the sound propagation study to determine where they would need to put it and how many and that type of thing, but I just don't know, but we'll see. And then we've been working in the process, we haven't gotten it all done yet, but ADA improvements, City Hall and our tennis court area. So, and we've had grant money, so we are in the process of undergrounding a section on our Crest Road and undergrounding. We have plans for another section on East Field and using 20A money to supplement that. So there's a lot of capital improvement projects that haven't been done in a long time in our city. And so sometimes, yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Hildy, how is Hermosa Beach?
Well, it's Manhattan Beach.
Manhattan Beach.
Hermosa, Manhattan Beach is, you know,
Sorry.
it's doing great. It's fine. So what's going on in Manhattan Beach? So we've got a lot of infrastructure and capital improvement projects. We're investing a lot in Manhattan Beach in the next few years. And currently we've approved a new senior and scout house community center that we're really excited to finally, that's been in the works for over 10 years. So really excited about that. We are completing the construction of our second firehouse, which was again another 10-year project that will be completed probably next year. We just completed the construction of replacing our reservoir, one of our reservoirs. So water, yes, it's very important. Might not be all that sexy, but it's kind of necessary. I agree with you on that one. We are now looking at all of our parks to improve our park areas. So, you know, lots of infrastructure. Our mall area is very well on the road to being completed, and we're really excited about all the upgrades to the mall. And we're even very seriously looking at building another community pool. So our Parks Commission is seriously looking at that. It's been something that our community has asked us for years and years. And we really would like to see that moving forward. We have a lot of the challenges that many of you have. Our housing element is not certified, and that is exposing us to a lot of potential consequences. We just had a developer proposing a housing project that did not get approved. So, and that was a very big community effort, lots of community engagement on this housing project. And again, consequences that we don't know of yet, but it is something that our community was taking very seriously. And so we have that challenge ahead of us. And then we have the same challenges probably that you all have with safety. We had a very high profile armed robbery in our downtown with one of our jewelry stores. And it really made our community very uneasy, and as it should. So, you know, we're paying close attention to how we can improve public safety and working with our police department on that. And we have, as I know Torrance has been wrestling with for several years, a coyote issue. And, you know, our community is very concerned about that. Lots more sightings, more predations. And so we are addressing that as well. Might want to talk to you a little bit more about what Torrance is doing, because I know they've been involved in that.
Yeah, I think RPV just did some cameras. Is that what I heard?
That's for wildfire though.
Oh, that was well, I thought. it was for
No, we're not
coyotes.
looking at coyotes.
Oh, shoot. I was gonna say, I got.
Trapping coyotes too.
They're the trapping.
Yeah, we have.
Go ahead.
So I'll just want to connect with you about that. And then I just wanted to share my own personal project, which isn't really personal. I guess it's personal to many people in Manhattan Beach, but we've been the targets and the subjects of a lot of hate incidents in Manhattan Beach. Lots of anti-Semitic graffiti and really very frightening and terrorizing messaging going on in Manhattan Beach, on our schools, on our public properties, in our downtown area, even in homes, with chalking messages on people's driveways. It's been really increasing in frequency and in intensity, and it's really very frightening. So I organized what we call the South Bay Community Coalition Against Hate, and it's represented by all of the different leaders of our community. So we've got city staff and me as the current city council member. We have our school board members and our superintendent. Our Ed Foundation is present, our police chief. We've got faith-based organizations from our major faith-based leaders from our major faith-based organizations. And we also included staff from LA versus Hate, the county program that I've been working with over the last several years. And we are addressing the hate that we've all felt so vulnerable with respect to in Manhattan Beach. And we're addressing it both in awareness and in education and then in apprehension. We're going to launch our program. It just started this last month, and we're going to launch a week of awareness and education programming starting on November 13th, which is United Against Hate Week. And I will invite you all to attend many of our events. Our launch event will be at our Pollywog Park, where we will be unveiling our rainbow pathway that will be painted this weekend, and we will have a ribbon cutting for that. We will also be having activities, sidewalk chalk event. We'll be having all sorts of activities on that day, and we will be distributing lawn signs to our community. And the message is that Manhattan Beach stands united against hate. And then throughout that week, we're going to be having a movie screening. Our faith-based organizations are going to be having bystander training for their youth groups. We're going to be doing a moment of silence, which I would invite any of our communities to join us in a moment of silence and reflection, to reflect on how we can address hate, how we can be better upstanders for those that are experiencing hate, and how we can ourselves be active in messaging that we stand up for each other against hate. So there's lots of that. This will be an ongoing concern. I was asked when I am done on council, which will be in December, to continue to chair the event, and we'll still have a council member who will chair the committee, and we'll still have a council member on the coalition. So that this will be something that we know is not going to go away, but we just want to reduce the incidence and help our community to heal.
What have they discovered about the origin of these incidents?
Well, that's so interesting because we have not caught the perpetrator, right? We haven't caught anybody doing this, but like on our school campuses, we had 9 incidences where people were painting swastikas on our school campuses, and students were coming to school and seeing these hateful, very terrorizing messages. We had last winter, our American Martyrs Catholic Church had been painted on their public property, some horribly hateful messages just out on their sidewalks and on some of their own properties. So, and unsuccessful in catching people. Just yesterday, there was a message written on a bathroom wall, an outside bathroom wall, that was trying to quote Hitler on this outside bathroom wall, and our cross-country team ran past it. So our CoStar high school cross-country team ran past it to see this message written on a bathroom wall. So it's really very upsetting. And we have not been successful in catching the people that have done it. But what we're trying to do is both that and try to help people that are really suffering from being exposed to these messages.
We have no leads.
The police, we do not have any leads. We have put cameras in our high school, on our high school campuses, especially in the bathrooms. But we don't know these happen without anybody seeing it happening so far, as we know. But that's part of this coalition, is to raise the awareness, to let people feel empowered. If students are seeing this happening, often they don't feel like they can, say something. And we want to give people an opportunity to feel that they are actually in the majority and should be speaking up. So it's a very, very disturbing, situation in Manhattan. And I know we're not alone. Across the country, hate incidents are, on the rise. We know that. So hate to leave that on a low note, but please join us for the ways that we can join together.
I think in the aftermath of LA City Council's disaster, I think we all need to be very explicit about, like, I've been in government for many decades. I've never heard anything like that, even behind closed doors. But I think we need to make sure that people know we don't allow others to just say stuff. Anyway, so I think this is very much related.
Right.
That it's just not okay.
Right. And it's not just the disparaging comments and the very hateful comments, but it's the people that are the bystanders and understanding what they can do, because we had those council members who actually didn't stand up in that room.
Right.
And that's another piece that we're not always comfortable with. What do we do? How do we be an upstander? So that's a big piece of our efforts. So yeah, thank you for commenting on that.
Thank you for sharing that with us in Manhattan Beach.
In Manhattan Beach. In Hermosa.
I've lived there
Join us.
before, so of course I know Manhattan Beach. All right. Rolling Hills Estates.
Yes, in the city of Rolling Hills Estates.
Your voice up, Brett.
In the city of, I'm hoping all of these old microphones pick it up. In the city of Rolling Hills Estates, we have several pretty exciting projects. We're launching a renovation of the Nature Center at the east entrance of our city, which used to be a quaint little shack, and we're kind of tearing that down and putting up a new one, and we've gotten some nice grant funding for that. That's at George F. Canyon. Some of you have done some hiking there. It's a really wonderful location. The Metropolitan Water District is completing some pipe repairs in our area. As many of you know, the Metropolitan District discovered that many of the piping areas throughout the Southern California the pipes were inferior and were causing problems now. So they're trying to be proactive, and they're completing that project, but we have some slowdowns in the entrance of our city. Then we have our Pepperidge Tree Foundation, which we are following the lead of Palos Springs Estates that have been successful with their foundation. And so we have invited a public participation in our foundation so that we can perhaps develop some exciting park projects and so forth. We just completed last weekend the annual Tracy Austin Tennis Tournament at the Jack Kramer Club. And then coming up for the holidays, we have our pretty famous annual holiday parade, which is the first Saturday of December. So we invite you all to that. Fun way to kick off the season.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Oh, I should mention that our hometown Grand Marshal for the parade will be Steve Zuckerman, who is retiring from our city council after over 25 years. He's the longest serving city council member. And so we are looking forward to honoring him that way.
25 years.
Wow.
Did those two have questions for anyone? Zion, did you want to have a question, or do you, because I was going to ask you to tell us about Redondo Beach, but Alfonso, do you have a question?
Yes, it was actually in relation to Hermosa Beach councilwoman mentioning the work that she was doing, but I would like to know more, so if we could connect. And then I also want to highlight that my office is hosting the supervisors were hosting a bystander training tomorrow. So in relation to what the conversation was, but I just want to mention that. I'll get the time and date right now. Sorry, I'm out in the field.
And Alfonso, thank you for that. And I'm sure Hildy will be sharing information too. in regards to what you were talking about, and maybe we can get our whole list and send it out to everyone, saying that everyone knows what's going on.
Yeah.
All your events and.
Yeah, thank you.
All
And
right, perfect. I'll do that.
Alfonso, I was having trouble hearing you, but if you want to, if we want to connect offline, I'd love to hear what you're doing and share what we're doing as well.
Okay, perfect. I'll share my phone number on the chat and then I'll pass it along.
Thank you, Alfonso. Zion, did you want to just go ahead and, did you have a question or you want to tell us what's going on in Redondo?
Yeah, give me 1 second. All right. So exciting things going on. I was listening in Redondo Beach. We got a certified housing plan. We passed a waterfront amenities plan, which will have a promenade along our entire waterfront. We're going to renovate our seaside lagoon to make it a circulating facility that's not pulling in ocean water and discharging ocean water. We are obviously advancing our position that the metro should not run through Redondo Beach because it passes by 490 residents who live alongside the road. And that's not the only issue, as I expressed to the Torrance City Council in the 1 minute that they gave me on Tuesday night, was that it will cause a freight train that carries gasoline every day to move closer to their homes, 12 to 15 feet closer to their homes. And Torrance is, and this is where the COG could be useful in setting up, I don't know, about a mediation or joint session of some sort, or a meeting where we discuss this subject, because there is no compromise that Redondo Beach could accept unless the freight train is completely eliminated. So what we've said to Torrance is, hey, a elevated train down Hawthorne Boulevard is exactly what that huge median on Hawthorne was intended to do. I went there on Tuesday to try to express this, try to say that to the extent the metro takes out any of their businesses, we would advocate for them to get payment back for the lost tax revenue from Metro, because we understand that the alternative 3 takes out a Volvo dealership potentially, and we're willing to work with them to help with any of that stuff. But it's unacceptable for it to come down the road, and they're just committed to this idea of when Metro's telling them we have $890 million budgeted for the Metro. That was in 2018 dollars, and now with inflation, it's probably a $2 billion project. They're thinking that, while Metro is saying that this will be built by 2030, it can actually be built by the Olympics. Please, there is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Let's get realistic, and it will not move forward quickly if we are opposed to it. And I didn't make a threat to Torrance. I just said Redondo Beach residents are going to file a sequel lawsuit because there is nothing that Metro could do to mitigate the potential harm, environmental harm, and harm to their property values from the vibration of that freight train moving closer to their homes. So in any event, that's a big topic that's on our radar right now. In addition, the power plant, obviously we got that Leo Pustilnikov submitting a plan to try to use a builder's remedy, despite the fact that we had a certified housing plan. And so we'll, this will probably be the test case for it. But we did get $5 million from the state to acquire that land. That's not nearly enough. Probably take $50 to $100 million and restore wetlands there. So I think our next step is going to be looking towards, major philanthropic benefactors would be willing to contribute money to help restore wetlands there. And frankly, it would be great to get a regional solution, a regional collaboration to get resources, because wetlands there, redevelopment of the Seaside Lagoon, which is going to take $30 million, and we have $10 million for it from the state, and it's all state property. It's something that's going to inure to the benefit of the whole region to have open space there rather than more residential development that is not going to solve the state's housing crisis. So that's all. Thanks, y'all.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman Dion Falk at Inglewood, welcome. You want to tell us what's going on?
Hi, everyone. Good
Hello.
evening. This is my first time actually reporting out with you guys. So this is good. I'll make sure I'm really prepare next time. So we have a lot of achievements and some challenges in Inglewood. We are definitely moving forward in our progress here. We are making progress on the Inglewood Transit Connector People Mover, also known as ITC project. And so we have received additional grant funding from our federal agencies and then also state. So we're getting there. We still have a lot of funding to achieve, but we are slowly but surely getting there. We actually just conducted a tour of the entertainment district because we had some federal representatives that were here a few weeks ago. And so our consultant arranged a nice tour and we had a really good meeting. So everybody's on board, a lot of support, and it's moving forward. So we're just going to continue to climb that mountain to get to the flag. Also, the K-line openings that are happening in Leimert Park and and we had an opening here in Inglewood at Florence and Market in our downtown district. And so that's been really a positive thing that's happening in Inglewood. It's increased our transportation opportunities and so it's right there in the downtown district of Inglewood. That's where our intended ITC People Mover will connect with the K-line. So now that our K-line station is open, the only things that's left is to get our ITC project up and running. And then we'll have a great transportation here in Inglewood. The ITC project is planned to be open by the Olympics. As everyone knows, the opening and I believe the closing of the Olympics is scheduled to occur right here in the city of Inglewood, 2028. So we are getting our city slowly but surely together for this momentous occasion in 2028. And hopefully that People Mover will be complete and up and running is the goal. Also, the Intuit Dome is coming along. It has been meeting several milestones at the project. In fact, we were over there maybe a few months ago for a celebratory milestone on the construction. So we are looking forward to that. We are holding a lot of Intuit Dome meetings for the communities that are adjacent to the Intuit Dome. So and providing that information and they're voicing concerns. So it's always a good thing to have progress in the city, but then there are challenges. And so we are working with the residents in our city that are surrounding the incoming Intuit Dome and helping them deal with the construction until it is actually built. So more to come on that. Looking forward to that opening of the Intuit Dome. With all of the progress that's happening in Inglewood, of course, like I said, there's challenges and there, let's just keep it real. There's traffic congestion. And so we right around the corridors of the entertainment center, of course, that's only going to grow. But we are working, just really hand in hand with our city divisions to help us come up with a great plan. We've reached out to some other cities to get some ideas and get some recommendations, suggestions on how they deal with their traffic congestion for some of their entertainment venues. So we are doing that, trying to incorporate and doing what we can to minimize that and make it a good experience for people who are coming into the city of Inglewood for the forum and for SoFi, and then also for the incoming Intuit Dome. Speaking of the forum recently changed ownership. Was the forum presented by JP Chase Morgan. And more recently, it switched over. So now there is a new owner of the forum, and that is Kia. And so they have their branding all over it, and it's really pretty. It's really nice. So we're welcoming Kia to the city of Inglewood as well. And let's see. I think that those, for the most part, we're having challenges like everybody else with homelessness in our city. In fact, we had some of our city workers were trying to clean out some of the trees and shrubbery along Pinkay, which is the street that abuts the SoFi Stadium and the Forum. And they were there trying to clean out some of the foliage there. And then there was a little small homeless encampment happening behind the trees. And so as they were trying to cut down some of the trees and stuff, some of the homeless folks got kind of violent and attacked one of our city workers and hit him in the face, as a matter of fact. And then he kind of fell backwards. So he is okay by the grace of God. He is okay, but we just have to be very careful. Please make sure your city workers are aware and cautious when they are around homeless encampments or homeless people, because sometimes they turn violent on us, and it's unfortunate, but we don't want anybody to get hurt. So yes, we're dealing with the homeless situation, traffic congestion. And other than that, I would say that those are the main milestones, and then some of the challenges that the city of Inglewood have been experiencing lately. So that's pretty much all I have to report on.
Well, for someone that wasn't prepared, that was a great report.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. No, thank you. And good to have you here tonight. Our first Vice Chair, Cedric.
Good afternoon, everybody. How you guys doing?
Good. What's going on in Carson?
I'm hopefully my voice won't go out. I've been hoarse for the last 4 days. But in the city of Carson, as most of you guys know, it's a small town with big town issues. We just completed our general plan in the process of having it before the city council. We did complete our park development plan, and we've instituted Wi-Fi in all of our parks. One of the biggest projects that we're still working on is 157 acres, which was the home of the new stadium, which is now in Inglewood. No problem about that. And then the outlet mall at that location, retail, a country outdoor mart. Our housing element, council approved it. We still haven't gotten the ultimate approval, but we hope that happens as well. We do have some concerns in regarding our housing element, that we had to incorporate a requirement or a recommendation that the neighborhood, which is south of Cal State University Dominguez Hills, has been identified as one of our affluent areas, and they've actually identified it as one of the areas that needs to be gentrified by actually, if a developer wants to come in, can buy 4 homes and actually tear them down and put in apartment units. This is a bedroom community that was developed back in the late 60s, early 70s, and is considered one of our highest affluent minority communities, but predominantly African-American with doctors and lawyers. And I wouldn't think in any other community you would have that neighborhood so disenfranchised or cut up like the way that they're requiring for the city of Carson to do. The other project that we're having in our city, we call it the South Bay Pavilion for the old timers. It's the Carson Mall. We do have a new owner. And within that location, there are several new developments that are coming to the mall. One is being a new market. Sprouts is coming to the Carson Mall. In-N-Out Burger is also coming to the Carson Mall, which we're trying to increase our restaurant row on Avalon. Rascals is coming to the city. In addition, Aldi has already opened in the old site that was the Sears building. In the Civic Center area, we're doing renovations to City Hall, to the community center by putting in new AC systems. And one of the big things that we're very proud about is that Tesla has come, and they're going to put in an actual Tesla charging station in the parking lot between Doubletree Hotel and the Carson Community Center with about 12 charging stations. In addition to that, we did an ordinance in regards to mobile parking. If you had a mobile home, you cannot park them in our public streets. You can only park them in front of your home with a permit, and that's where you're allowed to have it. We're not allowing them to be parked all over our city, which has helped us in not having a lot of homeless vehicles parked all over our city. When we did a study some years back, we found that many of our homeless in our city were transient homeless people in regards to they were mobile. They would get into a car. You may go to one neighborhood, they're there today, you go there tomorrow, they're gone, they move to another neighborhood. In addition, we are working on a citywide all roads repair and all trees trim concept. Since 2008, when the recession hit, we were on deferred maintenance for a long period of time. And since the city recently in 2022 went to districts, it wasn't fair to try and do certain areas at one given time. So based upon my recommendation, and council agreed, we've taken on the charge to do the entire city at one given time with several different contracts so that everyone gets their tree trim at least once this year and then start the rotating cycle thereafter. Very proud to say that the city in a long period of time has 60 million plus in its reserves. And that that is something that we are very proud of, in being in the South Bay, to have over $60 million in our reserve. 2023, the city of Carson will be celebrating its 55th anniversary, and we're working in collaboration with our Carson Chamber of Commerce and along with our different businesses in the community. Barry, thank you for being a part of it, along with Lena Whitaker, and making sure we have this in place. There's several events that are being put together, one being our Gala Ball, which will be in February. And one of the key things I tell everybody is actually going to be on my birthday, February the 25th. So during the Gala Ball, I'm telling everyone, I do accept gifts. So when you come to the Gala Ball, I will be there celebrating my birthday. We will be doing the street fair, a Tour de Carson bike ride, a 20-mile bike ride through the city of Carson, a 5K walk run, and a golf tournament, all in celebration of the city's 55th anniversary. I'm also proud to say I am an alum of Cal State University Dominguez Hills. And for the first time, as long as the university has been in the city, we finally have an agreement, a town and gown agreement with Cal State University Dominguez Hills and the city of Carson that was spearheaded by our mayor, Mayor Holmes, to collaborate all efforts in a joint development for any developments that are going to be taking place in our city to include our university in that project. So if there's any studies that need to be done, there's interns that are available, we're now actually collaborating with Cal State Dominguez Hills to make sure we incorporate our university in that process. Last night, and we talked about tolerance of hate and all the issues regarding racial equality and racial statements. We opened up our International Institute of Tolerance on Main and Torrance. And this is one of the first institution that's been open in Southern California in many, many years. And we hope to have different activities and stuff to address tolerance of an institution of not having people come at you and say things that are totally wrong and hate. One of the things that we've done recently in our transportation department, we've actually partnered with Long Beach Transit to do our transportation in our city. We did keep our north-south shuttle in place to address our north and south residents, that they still have that homegrown feeling that they have a community in itself. The city of Carson has its ups and downs, and many of you have seen us. You know, the city council has always been a volatile place, and we've been the butt of many, 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 many jokes. We're also on YouTube with different antics that has happened in the past. But I will say this, the city council we have today are working together towards making the city a better place. And I know through our sheriff's department, because we are a contract city, that we continue to strive to make the city of Carson a safe place to live, work, and play. I invite any and all of you to come to the city of Carson to come and look at, you know, the city started out as a junkyard, an oil field, and it's now becoming a destination city. And it has transformed greatly within the last 10 years. And I look for bigger and better things because there are new developments that are coming on board: housing, veterans housing, senior housing. All these things are coming into place. Affordable housing, we call it the missing middle. Individuals who are making a livable wage, but cannot afford a home. So these are the things that we're putting together here in the city of Carson. And I just want to say to all of you, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm sorry that my voice is messed up, but I'm making sure hopefully you guys can hear what I'm saying. And again, if there's anything you guys want to know that's going on in the city of Carson, please do not hesitate to get in contact with me. Thank you.
Cedric, that was terrific. Thank you so much. Drew, what's happening in El Segundo? Drew, are you there?
Oh, Drew.
To go get a glass of water or something.
Had lunch there.
All right, is there anyone I missed? I know we have the county people, but Alfonso, do you want to give us a quick update on the county district, your district office?
Yeah, well, I wasn't ready either, so I just wrote some of the other work that we're doing, which is the Racial Justice Learning Exchange, where we're doing the bystander training tomorrow. I put it in the chat, all the details for that. That's one of our side projects that the supervisor is pushing for, and having our team members work on that. And we do monthly events, talk about how racism impacts different communities and the historical aspect of that. And then we're working on a lot of projects. I'll say the things that I'm working on that in the area that I cover, which is in Lennox, unincorporated Lennox, or most of you know, the county supervisors cover unincorporated areas. And I'm also doing collaboration work with some of Councilwoman Falk and some of the issues that overlap. But in unincorporated Lennox, we've seen, like everywhere else, an increase in violence. A lot of the violence being done by youth, middle school youth. So we're bringing in continuing youth services, crossword, which is just gang and violence prevention, into the park, and pushing for our county parks to do more events. Because that's the only way to actually, especially this, which was happening in the parks, to decrease the violence around the parks. So we've seen a decrease after hosting back-to-back events. Actually, that's where I'm at right now. I'm in a community event, but in general, that's our focus right now with the increase in violence that's going on. And that's it. Nothing too major like all of y'all, but we're working on other projects. I just can't think about them on top of my head right now.
No worries. Well, we appreciate the update, and just for everyone, I really appreciated that update from everyone. I'm glad we did that, because I heard a lot of things I didn't know about your cities before. And for the people that didn't speak but are on the meeting, so there's 16 cities and 2 county seats that make up the South Bay City Council of Government, and so you got a chance to. We haven't done that in a couple of years, so you got a chance to hear what's going on in all the cities. Oh, did I miss anyone? Nope. Okay, I don't think I did. And if Drew gets on, we'll give him a chance. Next item.
Okay, SCAG REAP, Jonathan.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to be providing an update on regional early action planning grants, both REAP 1, which is current, and REAP 2, which is coming. Starting with REAP 1. Project number 1 is ADU acceleration. Our participating cities in this project are El Segundo, Gardena, Hawthorne, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, Rolling Hills, and Rancho Palos Verdes. The updates are this. So the major push is the ADU survey. We have sent out several rounds of postcards now, and we're up to 41 responses out of 807 addresses. So it could be better, but we're at about a 5% response rate, which incidentally is the same as the UC Berkeley statewide response rate when they did an ADU survey. So we're right on par. We have 31 responses from owners of ADUs, 10 responses from renters. So that's good because we have a spread there. And good thing to point out, we have now responses from all 8 cities. So the data will come from all of the 8 participating cities. That's really key. The survey deadline is November 23rd. So we have about a month left. Regarding the GIS layer and the housing policy comparison tasks, those are nearing completion. And we want to extend a thanks to both planning and building department staff for taking time to be interviewed by our consultants. 8 cities that sat for interviews. It was a lot of work, but it's going to make the deliverables much better. The analysis of ADU impacts to our local infrastructure, that task is just now starting. I am connecting the consultant with all of our public works directors and staff in the 8 cities. And the consultant will be visiting the infrastructure work group to talk about ADUs and their impacts on the local infrastructure, like sewers and roads and things. And that'll be on November 9th. The next project in REAP 1 is commercial redevelopment into housing. Our participating cities for that project are Carson, El Segundo, Hawthorne, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach, and Redondo Beach. Major update, all 6 cities have met with the consultant to discuss the feasibility criteria and start selecting potential areas for redevelopment. Those areas have been narrowed down from many within each city now to 2 in each city. So we have some more targeted areas that'll be looked at for further study to turn underperforming commercial into potential for housing redevelopment. And again, thanks to all the planning staff from those 6 cities that met with our consultant. It takes time, it takes mental energy. So we really appreciate all of that in time and investment from the directors and the staff. And now our consultants will be working on a much more finer coarse grain analysis of those redevelopment areas. So more to come in our next meeting. The final project that's active for REAP 1 is our Housing Education Forum. Everyone, you have a handout in your board agenda packet. So please take a look at that, save the date. Just a reminder, this is 10 units of housing education that's going to be focused on the South Bay. The audience will be elected officials, commissioners, and community development staff. The sessions will be recorded and they will be archived online. That save the date is there so you can start marketing it with your cities. This is going to kick off January 12th. It will be a lunch and learn brown bag style like we often do at the COG. And that is to really support attendance. We figure that if it's during the lunchtime, it's during the workday, you can encourage your staff to come on duty. The sessions will roll out every 2 to 3 weeks, and there'll be a variety of training sessions. I am in touch with potential speakers for every one of the units. So I'm nearing the point of getting formal yeses. We've not heard any no's, so that's a great bit of news. But we have people that are essentially tentative yes, or they're working it up the chain to get the formal approval. That's the update for REAP 1. I want to take a pause to see if anybody has a question on those active REAP 1 projects.
Anyone have any questions? We don't see any.
All right, moving on to REAP 2. So REAP 1 is the current project that has a focus on planning and more studies. REAP 2, which is coming around the corner, is specifically focused on implementation. So with REAP 2, that will be 2023 going to 2026. We have earmarked for the South Bay $585,856. So we know our pot of funding is that amount. And now we're at the point of developing projects. So one of the major goals that we've achieved is we filed the notice of intent to apply for funding. So we have the formal paperwork in with SCAG. They know that we're going to be submitting. That is done. And now we're engaging our cities to come up with projects. The criteria is much more stringent because the focus is on implementation. So 2 projects that we've engaged the cities on and have gotten support so far is our South Bay Housing Trust Fund. So that was approved by the governor, SB 1444. And now we're looking at implementing it, potentially starting it with REAP 2 money. So that's project number 1, that's potential. Number 2 is actually continuation of what we're doing in REAP 1 with commercial redevelopment into housing. We're looking at continuing that in REAP 2 to say, okay, now that we've selected these areas in our cities, what does it take to actually implement, convert underperforming commercial into housing in these areas? So the application for REAP 2 is due February 2023. We got time. We're going to continue engaging our cities. And I know that from my conversations with SCAG, we've already gotten some initial excitement about these 2 proposed projects. So we think we're in good shape. And I'll stop there to see if anyone has any questions about REAP 2.
Any questions? Nope. You did such a great report. No questions.
Excellent. Well, if there's ever any questions, I'll drop my email in the chat, and I'm always available to help out with anything related to land use and housing in the South Bay. Thank you, everybody.
We appreciate it.
Okay. Let's see, next one will be actually following up on that. Next steps for developing the South Bay Regional Housing Trust. The item in the agenda packet. So essentially, what we did was looked at the Gateway Cities COG. They're actually in kind of the same process we are. What they've done though is hired a consultant to help them develop a housing needs assessment, strategic plan, and funding strategy. If you have the digital version of the packet, there's a link to it in the item. And what it really does is kind of assesses the lay of the land, potential projects, potential funders, structure, best practices, and it'll really be a way to help flesh out what the need is out there and hopefully at the end of it, which cities want to participate in the trust. We had shopped this with the city managers and they had recommended this be a REAP 2 project. We have some other funding options. We could do an assessment. We can ask for funding perhaps from the county, from the state, but the city managers ultimately settled on REAP 2. They had recommended that to the steering committee, and the steering committee agreed with that and is making that recommendation to the board. And so we would ask that the board consider that recommendation tonight.
Okay, very good. And this is what on page
54.
54 of your packet, and at the bottom is the recommendation. And the amount that we're recommending funding is 225,000.
Yeah, and that's based on what the Gateway Cities COGS project is, RFP is for.
That's for the consultant.
Yeah, correct. They have some optional things in there that we probably will want to consider for ours as well. Like development of the funding applications themselves, a website for the housing trust, and then the kind of the process, the notice of funding for that first round of projects. So those are additional things that we would probably consider at the same time. So, and so the first action is, the first recommendations for the board to recommend using REAP 2.0, and then to form a subcommittee with volunteers from the board to start in January. We have a lot of work to do between now and January with the next item, actually, or item C on this list, the finance committee, between now and like February or March. And we have probably a decent amount of city council turnover in the next couple months. So we want to hold off until that kind of dust is settled to really engage in a subcommittee. And so we're proposing kind of a January next step for that subcommittee.
Okay, very good. And we have question or comment.
Yeah, I assume, even though it wasn't specifically called out, but this 225,000, is that money that is going to be included, at least that much in the REAP 2.0 funding, which it wasn't stated how much that.
Right. So Jonathan mentioned earlier that REAP 2 has about 585,000 in it.
Okay.
So that would be one of those projects. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Great. So does someone want to make a motion?
Move the recommendations.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded.
Any opposition?
Yeah, let's just do that. Reverse roll call.
Any abstentions?
Right.
Okay, thank
Very
you.
good.
Let's see, the next item, the letter to LA County regarding the land bank pilot program. So this one, there's a draft letter in your packet as well. And what the city or what the county has done is propose the establishment of a land bank pilot program that would essentially allow the county to hold land for potential future uses. And we have some significant concerns with that. It would really additional removal of local control. There's tax implications if this land is being held indefinitely, not being used for anything now. That's an issue. And they've kind of done this without any consultation with cities so far. And it's not being considered only for unincorporated LA County area, so it'd be countywide.
And there was a motion to include the cities and it was voted down.
Correct. And so we have some significant concerns with this concept. The letter, as it's drafted now, kind of recommends that if the county does want to move forward with it, that they do it only in unincorporated areas or in areas that cities kind of volunteer to participate in this pilot. And I think that's it on this one.
Yes, speak.
Yes, I would like to propose, and we did deal with this within the LA division of Cal Cities. And so the legislative committee crafted a letter that included the points that are mentioned here, but also some additional important points. And that letter was sent to both board of supervisors and to Metro, because Metro is also participating in this program. So I do believe that it's important to send the letter to both entities. And there's some items, it ended up also going under the letterhead of California Contract City. So they together, both entities sent out this letter. But some of the points that were not covered in our COG letter that I think should be covered is that this proposed land bank program would deprive cities of property tax revenue that the cities use for essential services as part of their income. Because when this county has, they buy up under this land bank, they get a property tax exemption if they hold it there, and they can just hold it in perpetuity for a while. And then meanwhile, there's no taxes being generated on that land. And in this proposed, I went through this CEO report, believe it was laborious, but I found these little bad nuggets in there. So I made sure, you know, when I was reviewing this letter for the LA division, we need to include this. So there was that whole section about the property tax income is something I was like really important about putting in there. The report actually said that the county's tax-free status should be extended to private parties. So it's not just the county buying up. They, the land bank, they said should be structured in a way that allows nonprofit affordable housing developers or community land trusts to deposit land that's in incorporated cities, mind you, into the land banks to hold these properties tax-free for future development by the donating organization as affordable housing. So essentially there could be all kinds of people vying for this and saying, yeah, I want the tax-free exemption. And that's a boon to developers to not have to pay taxes on the land. And they can hold it for a while they're gathering all their stuff and even before construction. So that's a big problem. So it should address that. The other thing is, and we included because right while we were drafting this letter, all of a sudden SB 679 passed. And so as you know, that's set up a Los Angeles County Affordable Housing Solutions Agency that is going to now create and be able to buy up properties and be able to do things. They still need to get some funding. So they're probably going to try to put something on the 2024 ballot. But this is a whole new agency that now has additional oversight in addition to the state agency, HCD, and now the county's trying to do this. So there's no coordination. This land bank program doesn't seem, I mean, it was proposed before SB 679 passed. But the whole point that was made in the letter is that the land bank program is going to compete with and unnecessarily duplicate the work that is for the agency created under SB 679. So that's an important one too, because we don't need additional layers and so forth. But finally, we do mention in the COG letter the issues obviously of local control and not interfering with our zoning laws, which is really important. But something I think that should be highlighted out of that is every single city has had to work hard to get a state certified housing element. Some of us have got it, some of us are waiting for it. But at the very least, we should not have the county coming in and then gifting their tax exemption to property tax developers to just decide, oh, you know, we don't care all the effort you've made to decide where it would best be suited for your city to have the affordable housing that you've spent all this time looking at. We're just going to buy property here and there, and they don't have to go by any plan that the cities have developed for their own city. So this is another point I think should be mentioned. And I did send you, David, a copy of these letters. So, but I think those points are important to all of us here at this table and on Zoom, that we want to address them as well.
So are you making a motion and adding these additional points?
I am indeed.
Okay,
Yes.
can you go through, or maybe David, could you repeat what those points are, just so everyone's clear?
I can do it on the headlines if you want.
Sure. You want to do that?
And then I know Christian has a comment too, but could you go ahead and just so we make sure we capture what.
I second the motion.
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. And then while he's.
Read out that, there's like subtitles of this letter. I can just read the subtitle.
Sure, that would work.
Okay, so the first one, to include a reference that the land bank program would deprive cities of essential property tax income that financially support community services for cities. And then the second one is that the land bank program would compete with and unnecessarily duplicate the work of the Los Angeles County Affordable Housing Solutions Agency, recently created under SB 679. And then the third point is that the land bank program undermines state certified housing elements of the cities.
Okay, moved and seconded. We have comment. Christian?
It's more of a really a clarifying question for David or anybody else, because in my reading of the CEO staff report, this was specifically geared towards areas within a 2-mile radius of like the LA River. And so I don't see how it would affect the vast majority of cities. And I think it would be good for the committee to hear from county representatives on this program a little bit more before and ask for further clarification, because my read of it is very different than what I'm hearing.
I would indicate there was a focus on the LA River. It's like, I think it's 2 miles or so.
It was a 2-mile radius around the LA River.
They clearly said in the report, Christian, that they wanted to extend it countywide. So that's the issue here. There's a reference in the report that this, albeit a pilot program for the LA River area, it was the idea they were going to extend it countywide. So I think it's important for us to voice the opposition now rather than waiting for them to start extending it.
Well, again, I would respectfully ask for clarification. And I don't know if we have any county reps around the table right now, but take a wait and see. I mean, you're talking about doing a land trust on one hand, you know, and then you're talking about voting against something that's supposed to create affordable housing in areas of high need. I'm just saying that I don't think we have enough information to make a decision at this point in time. That's just my perspective.
Christian, if I may, it's Jeff Kieran with the Cal Cities. We are requesting, because they haven't taken the vote to expand it countywide, but that is what was in the report that we read. And the concern about that, what the Los Angeles County Division has done is request a meeting with all of the regional Metro Board directors like Mayor Butts, who I just shot an email to on Tuesday, trying to request a meeting so that we can flesh out exactly what the county is planning to do. And see if Metro is also planning on getting into that countywide idea of this land bank.
Okay. Any further questions or comments?
I thought it was a land grab.
It is.
All right. Well, let's go ahead. Is there anyone from the county that wants to opine? I don't know if Alfonso wants to say anything in regards from the county.
Just that my boss is supportive of this, and this is something to push for more affordable housing that is greatly needed across the county.
Alfonso, do you know if it currently is just the 2-hour or 2-mile radius from the LA River, or does it include the entire county?
I could check back on you on that because I don't know that. What I'll do, our housing deputy could have that answer. I could text her right now and see if she answers me, but I don't have that answer right now.
Okay. Okay, I think though the motion though speaks to more being proactive, that even regardless of what it currently is, we don't want it to be going beyond that.
Right.
And we have concerns about that.
And as the LA Division and California Contract Cities letter says even though we have issues with the program as currently presented, we certainly recognize the need to address housing production and affordability in the region. We would look forward to meeting with you to discuss ways that we can work together, amenable, and invited, some type of conversation to that end. So that this is not a bashing on affordable housing production by any means. It was more addressing some of the concerns in the report that.
Okay, and I think the group gets that.
And
Okay.
including the cities in the discussion.
Right. And yes, making sure we're included since they appear to be suspending the zoning laws for those cities for this.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and do a reverse roll call.
Okay, so we've got the motion on the table to submit the letter as amended. Anybody opposed?
I will be opposing.
Okay. Any abstentions?
I'm going to abstain.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Let me just make sure we have enough votes. We have 11 minus 2. Okay, we're good.
All right.
Can I get a copy of that letter too?
Sure.
Thank you for doing the count again. Okay, once you're done writing, we'll go to the next item.
Okay, next item, Finance Committee. So the steering committee formed a finance committee. The finance committee, so Jackie was asked by the city managers a few years ago to not wait 5+ years to discuss dues and the financial structure of the COG. So in response to that, thank you. The finance committee was formed. The first meeting is going to be Wednesday, November 9th at 5 p.m. It's actually the same time as we're canceling the legislative committee and instead doing the finance committee that evening. So if any of the board members would like to participate, please let me know. We'll be sending out all the Zoom information in the coming week or so, probably. I think we would also look for a couple more city managers. I think a couple have been volunteered by their council, but we'd obviously like some more. I think previously we'd also had some finance directors involved too, so I think they would be invited. Any questions on that one?
No. Send me a notice.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like one too, put in.
Send it out to everyone, please.
Yeah, we'll send out a notice to the whole board
Okay.
After the meeting. Okay, next item will be homeless services. Ronson.
Yeah, just really quick, 2 quick things. The county's trying to make an effort to be more engaged with the regions. And so, and this is coming out of the first recommendations, the Blue Ribbon Commission. And so they held their first regional quarterly convening meeting this past week. Funny thing, they only invited city administrators. They didn't invite any electeds, which I thought was odd. They did it because they didn't want Trip Brown Act of things, but I mean, it's like, how do you not get input from electeds? And so I invited you all with the notion that just be mindful of Brown Act rules of your cities. And I sent the email to all of you with notes on the meeting. Let me know if you didn't get it, but if you'd like to make comments or provide feedback, send them to me and I'll make sure they get consolidated. And I like to hold the county accountable to make sure that they're listening to us and, have like a checklist or something, if you will, to make sure that our voices are being heard. The second thing is the task force meeting is November 2nd, next week. Like I said, we'll be talking about service resistance. And then the second topic will be on recent legislation that affects homelessness specifically. Less so about all the housing bills that got passed, but things like now people can stay in motels longer than 29 days. Before you'd have to move people in and out of motels if they hit the 1 month mark. So there's lots of legislation like that we'll be talking about.
Yes.
Bronson, I wanted to ask you a question about something that you had commented on earlier when we were talking about the anti-camping laws. And it's something that's come up in Manhattan Beach, trying to assess or mirror a ordinance that Santa Monica introduced, or in addition to their anti-camping law, which was standing in doorways in the evenings. And I'm probably not characterizing it exactly correctly, but apparently they added to their anti-camping ordinance, enforcing not allowing people to stand in private doorways hours from like 11 p.m. to 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. And I'm wondering if when you're creating that handbook, that you can also kind of touch on that, which sounds a little bit redundant to me. I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah. I mean, we'll definitely touch upon enforcement mechanisms. Enforcement can be a double-edged sword that we'll talk about, because when you arrest someone, that goes on their record, and so when you go then to apply for an apartment, they do a background check, and they're going to show that they got arrested for loitering, anti-camping, and it's going to trip that background check. Now we can't house them because they have. So it's a double-edged sword. Now I'm not saying we can't enforce, but when is the time to do it? And there's other ways you can do, other steps you can take before enforcement, such as citations, which are a parking ticket essentially. And so that's a little bit less aggressive. So maybe you take that step first. So we'll be discussing all these different options that cities can employ. We've actually seen some successes that some cities have done to tackle this service resistance issue. So we'll be talking about that, like what they did to get people off the streets. So yeah, it'll be a pretty robust conversation, and maybe sometimes somewhat controversial too. So it's a hard topic.
No, I understand that. And the cycle is unproductive, right? To your yes, but just it seems like the next step in really clamping down in a way that I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, and obviously when you talk about this, there's two big far spectrums of the issue. Like there's the ACLU, group, all about civil liberties, and then there is the more aggressive group, right? And so we need to find some middle ground, and so that I'm hoping that we can come to this discussion.
Cedric.
Thank you. Now, quick question. I might have missed it. Are there still any talks in regards to addressing the landlords who have lost money in back rents and being paid?
So other than the housing program that the state had, which so for example, we had one client that applied with the landlord for repayment of back unpaid rents for 2 years. The state wrote the landlord a $55,000 check to cover those expenses. So that did happen. That unfortunately that program is over. So I have not heard of any new program that would continue that. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I've talked to too many landlords, and they're just saying they are being penalized because they own the property, and that their renters seem to have more abilities to get assistance. And if they are not able to get the money for their rents, they're going to lose the property, and that's going to increase the homelessness because now the property is going to go into foreclosure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's something we can provide feedback to the county in terms of making sure landlords are not put in that position. I think definitely, the mom and pop landlords are the ones that we're more concerned about.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Alfonso.
Talking about the potential foreclosures, I think the county does have a program. Unfortunately, that program is only if the owner of the property is on foreclosure, to stop the foreclosure, to try to get them out of the foreclosure. And it's under, I believe it's under LACTA, but I could get more info because I've gotten a couple calls on that and on casework that I've done.
So only if you're in for, many of the landlords I've talked to, they're trying not to be in foreclosure. They're trying to deal with their credit rating. And
No, I know. And that's the unfortunate part right now. Sorry to interrupt you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ronson.
Okay, next up, transportation reports. Steve's ready to roll.
I'm here. I'm ready. Three or four things tonight. First, from the Metro meeting today, there was a celebration of the opening of the exposition line of the Crenshaw LAX line from Expo to Westchester Station. Apparently, they had 12,000 people come out during the weekend when the rides were free. Once they started fare collection on Monday, the initial ridership is about 2,000 a day, which is a good start. It grows over its lifetime. The board spent a lot of time today talking about its end of line policy and unhoused riders motion, which was brought by directors Hahn, Najarian, Solis, Barger, Dutra, and Kokorian. That process has become fairly controversial. As you know, the Metro Board has all 5 county supervisors and local elected officials on it. And Metro has been very aggressive in the last few years, trying to help the homeless once they get off of the transit and once they get off of Metro property. The board today wants to do to review that staff policy and to bring it into more alignment with a board policy, which basically says it's Metro's job to transport people in their system. But once those people leave the trains and leave the property, it's really the responsibility of local jurisdictions to deal with how to find housing for them, not Metro. So they've asked for a report back in January of 2023 to see how they could better align the previous procedures and this new, more restrictive policy. I think the Hahn motion asks them to coordinate by doing some research first, find out how the Metro's end of line policy impacts the communities that have a station, find out, do a thorough evaluation of unhoused populations exiting trains, especially when they exit trains that run late at night, after the typical homeless services have stopped for the day. These people get off the trains and there's nobody there to help them. And so they end up being there at 4 o'clock in the morning when the trains resume, and they get back on the trains and ride the trains all day. So they want to become more focused on the role of the agency in homelessness. As I said, it was a long and really insightful conversation, and there were several positions that were being held by the different board members. So it'll be interesting to see how that resolves, including the question that Mr. Najarian asked was, there's a large contingent of unhoused that are resistant to any help offered. So he thinks we need to address these riders too. When we have a policy, we need to be able to enforce it. The next thing that got discussed was what's called the Fare List System Initiative and the Low Income Fare is Easy program. There's a pilot program that's been going on that'll come to a close June 30th, 2023, about less than a year from now. It's been wildly successful. 18% of public and charter students are participating in the program by getting a tap card that allows them to ride. 5% of community college students are using the system, but long-term funding is still an issue, and the Metro had gone to the state for funding in AB 1919, but the governor vetoed that bill. So they're really starting to focus on what is phase 2 going to look like with DPSS and other housing type agencies and social service agencies in the lead and Metro supporting them. So that issue, the free fare issue, is going to come up for more review again in the middle of next year. The final thing that came up was an adopt a tree policy, not a Christmas tree, But Metro, when it builds stations, needs to do landscaping and they need to put in trees. So there's now a new tree policy, which your cities may have some interest in, which clarifies and standardizes Metro's practices for protecting the urban tree canopy throughout its construction project. And basically what it says is it provides guidance on the types of trees and the location of trees that can be planted within Metro stations, facilities, and adjacent to bus stops. If Metro requires the removal of a tree, the policy requires a minimum tree replacement ratio of 2:1. Or if the tree was deemed a heritage tree, which there's a category of trees that are heritage trees, you have to plant California native or other drought tolerant trees, and you have to cooperate with your regional partners, local agencies, and communities during the planning and design of capital projects. So if there's a heritage tree, it needs to be 4 trees to replace it. If it's a regular tree, non-heritage, it needs to be 2 trees to replace it. And they're requiring coordination with the local agencies where Metro intends to plant a tree or have somebody else plant a tree adjacent to them. So if you have tree issues, you now have a partner in Metro with a formal board policy that will help guide staff to do what they want to do. Questions on that before I jump to the Transportation Committee? Okay.
Looks like a great presentation, Steve. Thank you.
Let me just brief the Transportation Committee meeting that was held on October 10th. There were Infrastructure Working Group, Transit Operator Working Group, and Metro Service Council presentations on their work. Caltrans District 7 gave a presentation on its South Bay projects and the status of all those projects. We are in the middle of meeting one-on-one with your public works and transit operators to try and initiate new projects or ask for additional funding for your current existing projects. Those existing project additional funds must be requested by December 1st, and new projects need to be submitted by January 15th. So if you're thinking about what can Measure M and Measure R pay for in your city in terms of transportation projects, you've got those 2 deadlines. If you need more money, again, for a current project, it's December 1st, we need the request. And if you want to propose a new project, we're only taking new projects in Measure M, not R. And so if you have a new proposed Measure M project, that has to be in by the middle of January. I think, the other thing that happened was there was a very good presentation by Aaron Baum on the LTN update and wayfinding design preferences. You know, we're going to be putting in signage and sharrows and such in this LTN network. And he made a presentation to public works folks about what the signing options were and showed them several examples. So I think that covers it.
Steve, do you have scheduled all 16 cities in the COG?
David, I think we have 1 or 2 that are left, but I think we're almost done.
Yeah, almost there.
Who are you missing?
Just scheduled your city.
Okay.
The only ones I'm missing now are, I think I need to meet with Redondo Beach, but Ted had been out of town. I think maybe 1 more, Carson, I think. I think almost everybody else we met with, so.
All right, you heard that, Cedric, right?
Yeah, I heard it.
All right.
Come to your birthday party, Cedric.
Thank you for any extra bump you can give to your
I'm the
staff.
only
Cedric.
Carson High graduate here.
Very good.
That's
Cool.
it for me.
Thank you, Steve.
Next item is the SBESC projects and programs. Kim?
Hi, good evening, everybody. So I wanted to work off of what was presented earlier today by Sean, the COG, and I think Natalie has a slide so we can show you here. But one of the things that we've been doing is working on community presentations. This is a little snippet of some of those presentations that we've done. You can see for Manhattan Beach, we were able to do a fully virtual event. for Hermosa Beach also, but then we did a hybrid event for the city of El Segundo. And I want you to, think about this, that these are things that we can do for your city all through the next year. We were able to combine energy efficiency and water savings message. So we were able to bring in West Basin as well as the SoCal Ren to talk to the community. We were able to get some items donated. And in El Segundo, we were actually working with their environmental committee, which was really nice because they then also engage the community. And so for those cities that have environmental committees, I know a lot of you do, would love to work with them and do some work like this. Also, just to let you know, they're in the process right now, the CPUC, of looking at funding projects in that'll be funded actually in 2024. They start early. And we've gotten some pushback from Cal EPA on some of the projects that our organization has been interested in, one of which is to expand the California Green Business Network. That's a statewide program that's run by a nonprofit, and several of our cities participate in that program. And what we were proposing is if those services could be extended to all of our South Bay cities, and also to have incentives and like buy downs for businesses so they can become more green. And so that could be lighting, it could be kitchen equipment. I'd love to bring in some water savings as well. And so we are starting to work with the County of Los Angeles to put together our argument so that we can try to get those funds to the South Bay. So that's important work. And we may have letters that we bring to you later to approve. And then our green business program is doing really well for the cities that are participating in that. Several business walks are taking place. I know Olivia is getting ready, or it might have just done it recently, Olivia, with Martha out into the business communities. And
Still trying to coordinate it.
Okay, good. And so we welcome elected officials to participate in that. And then the last thing, just to let you know, is we are still giving out rain barrels, and we have 2 more events coming up. One is I was going to say October, but it's not. It's November 5th and November 19th, and they're going to give out more than 1,000 rain barrels into the South Bay. And so I know, we don't get a lot of rain, and we're wondering, well, how much water goes into those rain barrels? But the important thing is that it really brings awareness to the community about saving water. And that's what we're seeing, is it starts that conversation. And so that's really all I have right now, if there's any questions.
Mayor Chen.
Hi, Kim. This week I received an email from a friend. I believe he lives in Manhattan Beach. And he had this idea related to environment and water saving. Have anybody ever heard of anyone collecting water in their home when their humidity level is up at a certain threshold, and then he's collecting like up to gallons and gallons of water every night just while he's asleep?
Wow.
Like condensation? He's collecting the condensation?
Or something. Yeah, dehumidifiers. I don't know. I just
hadn't heard of
received
that.
the email. He's asking me to look into the city of Torrance files. Since you're talking about that, I thought, why just city of Torrance?
Sure, definitely. Send that over to me.
I'll shoot it to you. I didn't look at a whole lot. Looks like he said, "Oh, it's a great idea." We got water problems. We don't get too much rain, but in certain parts of the city, maybe certain parts is. In the evening, if you say up, the city's up on the hill gets a little muggy sometimes. I don't know. I'll send it to you. I thought I'd just share it. It just came in this week.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kim. Next item.
Okay, next one is South Bay Fiber Network. So far, over 40 sites are connected to the network. Revenue generated from the service contracts is slowly increasing. We're actually close to hitting 50,000 a month. And we actually anticipate several cities increasing their service levels as their ISP contracts come out, renewals come up over the next year. We are working on work order number 5, which is a connection to the Torrance Transit Center. And we anticipate turning on that service near the end of the year in coordination with it opening. We are looking at kind of the last tranche of potential projects, one of which is a connection up to RPV's Ladero Linda Park. If there's anything else any other sites that you might want to connect to the network in your city, let Aaron Baum on our team know, or just let me know and I'll forward it over to Aaron. And we're continuing the wireless pilot project. 2 sites are being explored, one in Carson and one in Torrance. But the big issue that with that one so far is that we need 24-hour access to the sites, which is something that we're trying to work through with the cities and our contractor, try and figure out a solution to that. Next up is.
Can I ask, I'm sorry, can I ask a question about you said we're close to getting $50,000 a month?
Yeah, so.
How does that work?
So it's what all the bills that are coming in for your connections to all your city sites. In our contract with ADF, we were supposed to hit, I think, 35,000 is the goal. So we're exceeding that. So it's just a sign of good service and good connections, and folks are seeing value in it. So
good.
Yeah,
it's a cash cow.
It is. Let's see. Next up is the LATA grant, which is a CPUC grant. We had applied for funding to support a needs assessment and network expansion and design opportunities to help bridge the digital divide in areas of the South Bay. So far total, there's a $50 million available for projects, not to exceed 500,000 per project. We submitted an application in August for 499,000. To date, 72 applications have been received, 40 projects have been funded, which comes out to about $19 million. We have not yet received notice on our project, but it's still under review. Any questions on that one? Okay. We are working with our cities on smart cities applications. We're picking up stuff as we talk to your city staff on what everybody's doing. It's always interesting to hear what some of the cities are doing without us even realizing it. In support of cities' efforts to innovate using the fiber network, we want to look at how we can help kind of augment what your cities are already doing. Could be something like a sub-regional broadband strategic plan, or kind of revamping our South Bay Fiber Network working group that we had several years ago. So that'll be stuff that'll be coming down the road in the next year or so. I think that's it on fiber network, unless we have any other questions. Okay, next up is local travel network. Like Steve mentioned, we are in the process of doing the wayfinding branding exercise. We had sent out a poll to stakeholder groups, including the board, city managers, public works, transit folks. And we are asking that you guys talk with your council colleagues so that at our November meeting, you guys will have the kind of input from your cities to make a final vote. We hope that there will be consensus. The goal is that these signs will be used throughout the South Bay on the project. So even if your city is not participating now, we still want your input on it. So far, we've got 2 cities that have expressed interest in actually submitting a Measure M application to implement the LTN, which is great news. We will be getting that as part of our Measure M project application cycle. As a reminder, this is funded through Measure M MSP funds, so it's really at no expense to the city. And we've had a good series of stakeholder engagement meetings. Aaron and I met with the League of Women Voters Beach Cities earlier this week, and They were incredibly supportive and very, very interested in the project. Had a lot of very, very good questions. And they asked us to come back to the Tri-League brunch that's scheduled for early January. So I think that includes PV and Torrance. And we're also working to promote some of the other events in the community that are going on that kind of support the LTN. One of them is the golf cart Halloween parade that's going on in the beach cities. It's a very interesting parade. Everybody dresses up their golf carts, does a little tour around town. Colleen's gonna actually go out and take some photos. So hopefully we'll have stuff to share online and maybe something at our next board meeting. And it's, so if you're out in the beach cities on, I think is it Sunday?
Sunday, yes.
Sunday, yeah.
Breeze, I think, today about it.
Yeah, keep an eye out. You'll see them, a whole line of them. I think they had 40 or so RSVP'd right now and are expecting up to maybe another 20. Drew has an NEV. I don't know if he'll be participating, but it'll be all along the beach cities. So keep your eye out.
We don't even know if he's listening.
Yes.
Someone asked you about the Measure M application. So as part of the Measure M application, our cities can request the local travel network that be a part of the application?
Yeah, so it's an
request
eligible
funding for
project.
that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you have any information on that specifically? Because I think I neglected to say anything to my city about it because I didn't really know that. So I'd like to get that information to the Public Works Department.
Sure, I'll send you some info afterwards.
Would you?
Yep.
Thank you.
George.
You know what? I think some of the folks here were at Cal State Dominguez Hills a couple of weeks ago, the South Bay Economic Forecast. So there was one person that was on the panel that was briefing. It was from a company called Avanti R&D. That might be someone that you might want to invite to speak in this forum.
I think so.
Touch on smart city and others. I went and visited them this week. They're doing projects for Denmark, helping them to move cyclists safer.
So I was there and I had the same thought and I want to set up a meeting with them.
Yeah.
They have a very innovative
They're
AI technology.
very high tech, looking at the stuff, and they even have environmental sensors for them to see how much pollution.
So using that technology could be a way to kind of gauge the success of the LTN because you can measure air quality and the AI tracks the kind of vehicles. And so it's right in our backyard. So there might be a way to partner with them on pilot or something like that.
They could do a trial case.
Right.
They're very local.
Yep.
Good suggestion.
Okay. Anything else on LTN? Senior services?
Just really quickly, we're gonna invite you guys to the LTN, Aaron, you and Aaron, to talk at our next senior services meeting. And then we had a great presentation from Carson last meeting. I was actually amazed by all the senior programs that Carson has. If your cities have new senior programs coming up, let me know so we can invite your community people to come and talk about it.
Okay.
Don't forget to add 50 and older. If you're age 50 in the city of Carson, you're a senior.
You're what?
We're
seniors.
We're seniors. You said single.
Senior.
That's how McDonald's, that's the threshold for senior coffee.
Okay, next up, General Assembly. So the steering committee settled on a name for the event this year. It will be called the South Bay, Leading the Way in Resilience and Adaptability. We're still working on the program. As always, if you guys have sponsor recommendations, we are always looking for sponsors. And just stay tuned for more information over the next several board meetings as we get closer to March. There'll be hopefully another interesting program for you guys. And any questions on that one?
Should use the turtle as the new mascot.
So it's,
Really
yes,
cute.
yeah, he's alluding to one of the LTN designs. One of them is a rolling turtle.
Rolling turtle.
Which seemed a little comical at first when our consultant first proposed it, but the League of Women Voters unanimously supported that one. And it's, not to give too much away, but so far I think it's slightly ahead in our kind of internal poll, the polling that we've done. So
Managers are pretty receptive to
yeah,
that one too.
it's interesting. It's different, and I think you'll learn more next month. But I think it's brandable. I think it's different than just your standard sign that you might see on the side of the road. And so
COG's new mascot.
totally. And there's a lot of opportunities with the turtle. I'm sure Colleen has plenty of ideas if that's ultimately what we settle on. So, and I don't have any other items.
Okay. But what about the open house?
Oh, open house. There's a flyer in your packet. It's going to be next month on the 17th at 4:30 before the board meeting. So please, you guys have already seen it, but please come to the official open house. We moved in here about 3 years ago now, and had our stuff delivered right as lockdown started. So we've never officially welcomed everybody to the new old office now.
Yeah, but we haven't had mocktails yet.
Correct. We haven't had mocktails, and we have some snack,
Sounds
some hors d'oeuvres coming.
Real
So
cocktails yet?
It says-
So I wanted to encourage everybody to please RSVP so that we can plan for everybody. And we do have some past General Assembly sponsors from 2020 that we never were able to actually let them sponsor, right? Because we didn't have that event. They're going to be here also and doing like very small displays. So please RSVP.
Right.
Okay, so on the agency reports, it said no attachments received, but I did send a report on the SBACC. And I don't.
I think that's in. Yeah, we have that under the on the consent calendar.
Oh, because there's no attachments received.
No, we already voted.
It's actually in here.
We've got it in the
Oh,
in
okay.
the packet.
Okay.
Due recognition already.
All right, next item.
So the next one is Jackie asked me to make this announcement, and it's actually a clarification on behalf of the WIB. So they have their annual awards dinner taking place on November 3rd at the Torrance Marriott. Elected officials can bring a guest and attend at no cost. In their report in the packet, they had it noted as the 27th. It's not the 27th, it's the 3rd. So if you're interested, reach out to the WIB to attend that. And that's it from us.
Oh, really? Okay. And
Unless there's anything else from the city, anybody else that wants to make an announcement, I think.
so no more agency reports?
No, unless there's any.
No, of course. Jeff, and Jeff's here in person too, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to add
Jeff,
to.
you're on mute. Oh,
Yeah, thanks. I just want to add to my report, yesterday, the Los Angeles County Division Board did have our board meeting. We also invited the executive director of Cal Cities, Carolyn Coleman, to speak to some of the concerns that have been raised about the General Assembly and the way that was conducted. Short answer is we did follow all of the rules and procedures that are in place in our bylaws. But what we are doing right now is assembling a governance committee. They're going to meet at the beginning of next month to the first meeting, at least, to talk about changes possibly to our bylaws that would allow us to change, possibly move the schedule around to allow for more discussion time, if that's something that we want to do. Also, I did just want to bring up the builder's remedy and housing element procedures. I'm paying a lot of attention to this. A third of the cities that do not have a approved housing element are in LA County are here in the South Bay. So it is something that I'm paying a lot of attention to daily. Builders remedy projects. I am working to, I did speak to our Sacramento office on my way down here, that we are really going to work on doing some roundtables. So city managers who are in this predicament can talk with other city managers, because right now this 30-year-old law that not many people really knew about is really impacting a lot of cities and could continue to impact cities until they get their housing element. In one of my cities, Beverly Hills, it's estimated that they still have 6 months before they're going to get their housing element certified. And that means a lot of possible builders remedy projects. So it's something that we're paying a lot of attention to, and hopefully we're going to be able to bring on some webinars and roundtable discussions just for information sharing, essentially, because this is something that a lot of people were not really sure or were aware of because it's such old law. So we are working to try to get that out. So I'll be reaching out to city managers directly, especially when that happens.
When is your board meeting next week? You're going to bring up the changes in some of the governance.
The governance committee is meeting in advance of our, what we call league leaders, where we set policy for the coming year. And that begins, I believe, on the 14th. So it's actually about 2 weeks away.
I know our council's talking about this issue the first Tuesday, which is
I will see you Tuesday. Yeah.
I know there's a letter within our packet
Yes.
that would address what you just said. And so if we approve that, we'd send it out and so you'd have time to read that. That'd be great.
Yeah. And I have seen a copy of that.
Oh, I'm sure you have. We haven't approved it yet.
No, I don't read it.
So for Lomita, HCD had told us, all right, you're good to go as long as you just make these few little changes here, and they were a push, but our staff was able to get that done. And then they said, and we'd also anyway, and so we pushed back. Our staff did, because unless we were going to have an emergency council meeting, we couldn't do anything. And what they were asking for was pretty extreme, that we upzone Crenshaw to 80 units an acre. And it's, as it is, the area they're talking about is commercial.
Yeah.
So, and I see no chance of it going away, but and it was like, like that just, first of all, that ain't cool. And secondly, it's not a way that we can really operate, because they put staff in the position of trying to improve something that they couldn't do. And so they had to push back and say, we can't do that. And they backed down.
Yeah, and I think it was still in the late summer that we convened sort of a meeting of some of these cities who have gone back and forth. In fact, Rancho Palos Verdes was engaged with that meeting. I think we had cities from around the SCAG region who were in that process, and there was a lot of comments. We just really wanted to know what was going on, because these letters that come to HCD go right to the city and then back and forth. And we just wanted to know how we could better prepare cities, especially in Northern California, who are going through this right now. So that's part of what we're working on, is trying to get a better understanding of how HCD is working with this. And what we found especially is that, you get a letter from HCD, you send it back with your changes and updates, and suddenly there's whole other things that they haven't thought to bring up in the past letters that have always been in the housing element proposal that are suddenly getting scrutinized or were back then. So it is obviously a very complicated process.
I mean, if the process were less opaque, it would be a lot easier to do. And also they get a lot less of a battle out of it instead of it. I mean, we don't trust them now.
No.
And that's not where you want to be. So we're going to be working with them on a different basis.
Yeah.
Where we're going to have to document and everything. This is not a good way to do business. And so we're wondering, how do we go back to HCD and say, higher up and say, look, we're not looking to get anybody in trouble. We just need moving forward to have a process that is more properly done.
Yeah. And transparent in that cities know what they really need to do, because this issue where things in the proposed housing element were getting called out 2 or 3 letters down the road by HCD and not the first time, just certainly doesn't help.
I mean, it's not, if we're doing that to somebody coming in for plan check, we're going to get called on it appropriately, I might add. So how do they think that's okay for them to do this?
Right.
Is that something that you're negotiating with them on? The league is negotiating with them on?
With HCD?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, because they really don't want to talk to us. They want to talk directly to the cities. But what we're trying to do is gather this information from our member cities so that we can better advise those cities who have yet to go through this process. And really, this builder's remedy thing came out of left field a little bit. So we're trying to get a better understanding of what it means. Certainly our city managers department is going, or excuse me, city attorney's department is going to be looking at this, and I think they already are. But we want to bring in the city managers and possibly city officials or elected officials as well, just so we better understand what's going on and what the options are for those cities who did receive several builder's remedy projects or don't have a housing element yet and might still receive builder's remedy projects.
And the timelines too, has been so challenging.
Yes.
Because they, you know, I don't know why you're getting a 6-month letter for whatever city it was. And they told us 60 days and all we had to do was just cure a couple of things, and 60 days is outrageous. It was what they told us to do. And so we're subject to this builder's remedy.
Yeah,
obviously.
we are essentially telling cities now that whatever HCD's maximum limit is of the time that they get to review your letter, you have to count on it being that maximum, because they're really not getting back to people in a timely fashion. It's
we were
pretty much
trying.
pushed out at that maximum time. So you really do have to really,
Just give it up.
city should have probably started this in January 2021, trying to figure out what was going in, because that deadline in September was difficult to meet.
Of course, everyone was hiring the same consultants.
Everyone's hiring the same consultants. We had that SCAG lawsuit about the numbers and everything else that pushed a lot of that data back. So yeah, there's a lot of factors that really went into this problem. But every article I'm reading from Northern California, it looks like they're going to be in this ABAG, the Bay Area COG is going to be in the same situation we are. They don't seem to be able to get through it quickly enough.
Okay, on that happens.
It's not always fun when I come and deliver happy news.
All right, does anyone have any upcoming events or announcements? All right, so
If anybody is, any of your communities, if you're planning holiday entertainment, don't forget you have your local chapter of the Barbershop Harmony Society available here for your entertainment. We'd be happy to join you. We will be performing at the tree lighting in Lomita, and we have a number of other events already scheduled. Pedro, I forgot, but anyway, it's all for fun.
that sounds amazing. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for sticking with us for an extra half hour. It was great to see all you. Have a great Halloween, and we're adjourned.
So we're performing at.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, everyone.
Which is all the guys are barbershop